Chapter 1071. Yu Minmin's situation was very different. "You Li Mingyu, are you sure you want to oppose me?" Yun Kuoshan asked, his expression darkening. Li Mingyu snorted and responded nonchalantly, "So what if I will oppose you? What will you do now? Snatch her over? You really think that the Yun family is the same as before? Do you really think that with your one sentence, the army will come?" You. Although Yun Kuoshan had no heart disease, he was so provoked by Li Mingyu that he was about to have a heart attack. Li Mingyu, however, did not care about that. He waved his hands. "Send our guests off." Yun Kuoshan did not want to stay here any longer, even without Li Mingyu's send-off. Yun Kuoshan huffed and went out. Yun Luo bowed her head and followed her father out. Li Mingyu raised his eyebrows and told Lin Che, "Let's go inside and see if there's anything fun to do." After Yun Kuoshan pulled the door open and walked in, he saw Yun Luo following him in. The more he looked at Yun Luo, the less happy he was with her. He slammed the door, making Yun Luo jump with shock. "Father, what are you doing?" Yun Luo asked. Yun Kuoshan replied, "Useless thing." Yun Luo felt wronged. She was also embarrassed just now. After all, the one who was humiliated in public just now was her. How were her looks not all right? It must be Li Mingyu, who was just spouting rubbish. Yun Kuoshan said, "If you were half as capable as Lin Che, the Yun family would not end up in this state." Upon hearing that, Yun Luo's heart ached. What's so good about Lin Che? What's so bad about me? How is she capable? Other than being capable of seducing people, how else is she better than me? You still dare to ask? Yun Kuoshan immediately replied, "How dare you ask how else she is better than you? She is not better than you in any aspect, yet she is protected by so many people. This means, a good upbringing is useless. The most important thing is one's face. You are so cold towards others usually. Now, look at what's happening. No one cares about you anymore. You are indeed not as good looking as Lin Che. It doesn't matter what I say now. You should just go and have plastic surgery." Yun Kuoshan only said those words in a moment of anger, but Yun Luo was deeply hurt by it. She stomped her feet angrily and glared at Yun Kuoshan, unable to think of any words to say to him before running out. Yu Minmin was hiding in a corner. She ate, too scared to go out and see people. She could feel that her face and body were extremely dirty, but she still had to hide here, unable to step outside. There were beggars everywhere. The beggar next to her was emitting a foul smell, making her feel like vomiting, but she had to bear with it. Because she had no other choice, she had to stay in a quiet place until the turmoil is over before she could find a way to ask for help. After all, this was M Nation and not C Nation where there were people from the Gu family everywhere. Yu Minmin had not dared to go out for many days. The food she ate was all given to her by other beggars who pitied her. From expired bread, water, pickles, sausages to leftover delivery food, she would not reject anything because she had to eat to survive. Only when she survived would she be able to see her family, loved ones, and Gu Jingming again. Her tummy was huge, so she pretended to have difficulty moving and just sat there, unmoving. Everyone asked her as her clothes did not look so dirty. They were curious where she came from. Yu Minmin said that she lost her memories and was sold by her family. She had that they called her a madwoman and sold her to become a mistress, so she escaped while she was pregnant and did not want to return. Upon listening to her, the people pitied her even more. On her other side was a mother with 2 children. This was the gathering place of the beggars, the place where real beggars would stay, and not the place where those con men gathered. The people here were all very pitiful. Some of them had their homes snatched from them, so they had no place to go. Some of them were bullied into having a place to return to. While others had no living family, so they did not want to go back. They were all homeless and lost their reputation because of the con men. Thus, it was difficult to get anything. The mother at the side said, "Most of the time, we go out to ask for food. We don't dare to ask them for money. Once we ask for money, they think we are con men and even consider that I abducted my 2 children." Yu Minmin replied, "They are also scared of being scammed again." Even if it was her, she would also think the same way when she saw beggars. She sighed, "I know, I understand. If it's not because my kidneys are not great and I would almost lose my life every time I do some hard labor, I would also go out to work and not beg here. Unfortunately, Yu Minmin asked, does the government of M Nation not care about you? Do you have any form of welfare? She shook her head. No one cares about us. M Nation is not great. As long as the president comes into power, they focus on developing the economy and don't care about us at all. Yu Minmin looked at her with sympathy. She thought that C Nation was much better. At least when she was at the Glazed Tile Palace, she saw great policies made by Gu Jingze and his team. Their welfare system would help every single citizen at least be able to eat and do not need to beg. But this time, she found maybe beggars her whole way here. And plenty of them really did not have survival skills. They had bodily difficulties or had a very serious infection, so they might lose their lives anytime. Therefore, they stopped working and just begged, living day by day. Yu Minmin said, if you were in C Nation, you could get welfare from the government. How could C Nation be so good? She said, I heard that since it is a bigger nation, it is harder to manage. How could that be? Their president is a good person. Yu Minmin thought, Gu Jingze was a good president that empathized with these people and loved his people. Ah, these are all lies. How can you be sure that he is really a good person if you don't know him personally? I think all these people are bad. Ah, they don't care about our survival. Yu Minmin said, no, he is really a good person. You say that as if you know him personally. You'll know after you see the real person, but people like us would never see the president our whole lives. But there were also people that purposely manipulated these people, barely making ends meet. As Yu Minmin was lying down, suddenly, a few people walked over and kicked one of the children at the side. Hey, is this a girl or a boy? Let me see. They were here to find a girl. After finding a good girl, they could sell her off to become a prostitute. The mother at the side had one girl out of the two children. She was afraid of people finding out, so she made the girl shave her head and cover her face with soot and raised her as a boy. Upon seeing these people come, the three of them were frightened. The few people immediately came to them. They pulled away the boy first. Then, they pulled away the girl and saw that she was a boy and spat, how lucky, why are there no girls recently? Just then, he kicked the girl's chest. The little girl cried out in pain. Chapter 1072, that pregnant woman killed someone. Io. He did not think much of it initially, but upon seeing the girl like that, he suddenly had an idea. Ah, you feel pain just after I touch your chest. He pulled the girl up. Ah. The girl screamed again. The man took a look and sure enough, it was a girl. His eyes lit up. Ha, I thought there were no more girls here. But it was because you got smart and learned to hide from us. Seriously, we are taking your child to have some enjoyment. You are too selfish by hiding them like that. The girl's mother immediately climbed up to snatch the girl. Please don't do this, please don't do this. She is still so young. Please be kind to us. She will starve to death here, so why don't we bring her to live in the lap of luxury? What kind of mother are you to still block her from us? The man immediately kicked the girl's mother away. The girl cried out in shock, but the people around them were already numb. Yu Minmin suddenly felt very sad and angry that they did not fight back. If they were not so weak and dared to fight back, these people might not be as rampant as they are now. However, they did not fight back. Yu Minmin suddenly stood up. What are you doing? The few people took a look and realized there was actually a pregnant woman here. Upon taking a closer look, they realized this woman was different from the others. Her skin was smooth and youthful, unlike the dirty people here. Io, there's a new type of good here. Unfortunately it's a pregnant woman, but that's okay. I heard they want to do some taboo things more when they are pregnant. They shifted towards Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin retreated. Human heart is all made of flesh. We are the same type of people. Aren't you afraid of going to hell one day by bullying people like that? They snorted and still moved towards the front. They held knives, looking very menacing. Go to hell. Then before I go to hell, I will first bring to heaven. The man viciously said and suddenly lunged towards Yu Minmin. Although a woman was weak, a mother was strong. Yu Minmin initially did not think she would be that strong, but since she was at the brink of death, she thought about the child in her stomach and would not give up so easily. She blocked the man in front of her. No matter how strong she was still pushed to the ground. In the moment of anxiety, Yu Minmin grabbed his elbows and snatched the thing in his hands without hesitation. While the man was still dazed, the tip of the knife was already in his heart. The man vomited foam. The rest of them were in a state of panic. Ah, someone was murdered, someone was murdered. The men immediately came over to pull the man away, but the man was already on the ground. He convulsed for a few times before losing consciousness. He was completely dead. There was blood everywhere. Everyone was panicking. The few people immediately accosted Yu Minmin. Call the police, call the police. We will send her to the police station, murderer. Yu Minmin did not know how she just killed someone. This was her first time killing someone. Under a state of shock and panic, she was sent to the police station without many thoughts. The people at the police station were cold. Crimes done by beggars were a handful. These beggars not only affected the townscape but also caused trouble, which made them all the more distasteful. Therefore, the police treated Yu Minmin with a bad attitude. How did you murder? It was self-defense. Yu Minmin replied. I asked you how you killed him, answer my question. It was self-defense. Yu Minmin replied. Hey, what are you talking about? Speak properly. The police slammed the table. Yu Minmin asked, they do so many evil deeds and you arrest me instead of arresting them. The policeman yelped and snorted. He did not waste any more words with Yu Minmin and immediately said, put her inside. The police roughly grabbed Yu Minmin. Let go of me. How can you be so rude to others? I am still pregnant, Yu Minmin said. Humph, you don't even have a residence permit. Why do I have to be polite to you? A bunch of dirty trash hiding in the underground canals like rats. Do you think I want to touch you? So dirty, the policeman said, pushing Yu Minmin into the cell. There were all sorts of people sitting inside. After being stared at by them, Yu Minmin had no choice but to find a seat and take a nap. After being pushed around for so long, she was very tired and also very sad. She thought, now that she was stuck in the police station, she did not know if people from outside had any ways of finding her. What if Gu Jingze had already sent people down to find her? Meanwhile, Gu Jingze was indeed already in M Nation. After getting there, Gu Jingze began to search for Yu Minmin with the clues he had at the glazed tile palace. However, as they did not know who their enemy was, it was like finding a needle in a haystack. Gu Jingze went to the black market and asked people to investigate if there were any peculiar happenings in M Nation recently. They were to report to him if they had any news related to any group of people suddenly disappeared to do big business or if someone suddenly got rich. There was not much news that was sent to him. The black market said that there was indeed someone that had a huge business, but they did not say what it was and the person did not return. Upon hearing about that, Gu Jingze immediately went to find the person. After finding the person, he found out the person disappeared. But he also heard that this person disappeared because they screwed up their job and ran away from M Nation in a group because they were afraid of revenge. Perhaps Yu Minmin had already run away. Or could she be already dead? Gu Jingze did not dare to think about anything, so he could only continue investigating. Afterward, he asked the people from the black market where was a good location for hiding if they did not have money or people. They said that there were some beggars and homeless people that would hide at the underground canals in M Nation. Gu Jingze immediately headed down to the different underground canals to investigate. There were many different kinds of beggars in M Nation, but it was different in C Nation. Although there were also a lot of poor people in C Nation, none of them were poor enough to go and beg, so there were not a lot of beggars in C Nation. Gu Jingze internally shook his head. As the president of a country, he could not just ignore them. However, he just wanted to find Yu Minmin now. He went to another underground canal. After he entered, he saw a pool of blood on the ground. There were not many people left. He curiously walked over and squatted down to take a look. From his experience, it was human blood. Just as he was looking, he heard some noise at the side. Who is it? Gu Jingze asked hoarsely. The person inside scurried out timidly. No, No, we already have nothing. Don't hit us. This person's death has nothing to do with us. It's the pregnant woman that killed him. Chapter 1073. I am going to give birth. A small child scurried out. A pregnant woman. Gu Jingming's eyes narrowed, took out a big note from his pocket, and looked at the child. If you tell me what happened, this belongs to you. The child stared at the note longingly and immediately told him in detail what happened. At the police station, Yu Minmin leaned there and felt that her stomach hurt a little. She weakly called out, anyone. However, people around her were all asleep and no one would care about a pregnant woman in the corner. She sat on the ground and felt extremely cold. Her stomach, feet, and body were all freezing like she was in a hole in the ice. Her stomach felt like it was somewhat sinking, which made her feel all the more uncomfortable. 7 months. The fetus was 7 months old. There shouldn't be any feeling of sinking at this time, right? Shouldn't it only happen when someone was about to give birth? She quickly stood up after realizing it was not because she wanted to visit the restroom. However, just as she stood up, her stomach was in great pain. Is there anyone at all? My stomach hurts, I want to go to the hospital. She called out, crawling to the railings and grabbing it with great difficulty. Ah, do people not allow us to sleep anymore? Someone reprimanded furiously. Right, if you want to cause a scene, do it in the day. What's the point of doing it now? Yu Minmin's stomach hurt to the point that she did not have the time to care about these aloof voices. Quickly come and help me. My child is in trouble, quickly come. Just then, a policeman finally walked over sleepily. He hit the railings in front of her. What are you doing, causing a scene? Yu Minmin said, Policeman, my stomach hurts, please help me, I feel like my stomach is not right. The policeman snorted. Forget it. There are plenty of people like you in a year that suddenly said they were pregnant or got a miscarriage. So what's with it? Are you going to give birth? Then give birth inside. No one is stopping you. Yu Minmin's stomach suddenly burst into pain, and she almost blacked out as she leaned there and began panting. However, the people at her side did not care about her, so she could only grab the poles in front of her tightly. She could feel like stomach throbbing in pain. God, who can come and save her? She really thought that she was going to die. But it was okay if she died. She wanted her child to live well. Why did she have to be tortured right at this time? Why could she not just give birth properly? She screamed. That mournful sound made the people around her unable to bear it anymore. No way, this person is really about to give birth. Probably, looking at how big her stomach is. What should we do? The police will not care about her. Io, she looks like she is suffering. What suffering? She deserved it. She's still hooked up with others even though she is a beggar. This beggar kid was probably conceived in some underground canal. They began discussing her, but no one actually physically helped her. Yu Minmin was in so much pain that she felt dizzy. She could not think about their words anymore. Meanwhile, the man who burst into the police station grabbed a policeman. Was there a pregnant woman that was sent in yesterday night? Hey, who are you? The policeman was shocked by the tall man in front of him. He felt like he was suffocated by the man whose gaze had killing intent. His voice lost its aggressiveness as he spoke to the policeman as if there was some strong power that subdued him. I am asking you if there is a pregnant woman that was brought in. Ah, you mean that beggar murderer? The policeman asked. His brows furrowed. Not a beggar and not a murderer. The policeman was about to refute him, but upon seeing the dark expression underneath his eyes, he suddenly experienced coldness surrounding him. Whatever he wanted to say was stuck in his throat. Where is she? Gu Jingming held the policeman up by his clothes and walked inside like holding a rabbit. Hey, let go of me, what are you doing you? The policeman was very unwilling to be dragged inside, but his feet unconsciously followed him in. After Gu Jingming entered, he was about to ask again, but he suddenly heard a scream from inside. Ah! That shrill voice made his heart ache. Gu Jingming's eyes shifted. He was also murmuring, Minmin. Then, he abandoned the policeman and rushed inside. Hey, what are you doing? You are not allowed inside, you. Gu Jingming rushed inside. He saw Yu Minmin lying down inside, shockingly, in a pool of blood. Gu Jingming could not care about anything else other than going in immediately. Minmin, Minmin. Yu Minmin had already lost her mind. She squinted, grabbing the side, her fingers reddening and turning green from the pressure. She thought that she must be hallucinating after seeing the person in front of her. Jingming, I am going to die. Gu Jingming pulled her hand. Don't spout rubbish. You can't die, you cannot die. No, I must be dying. That's why I see you. It's okay, seeing you before I die is worth it. But my child, my child. Gu Jingming's eyes darkened upon seeing the pool of water with fresh crimson blood. He looked up and yelled, anyone there? Open the door for me. Can't you see what's happening inside? The policeman was also shocked by the scene in front of him. Who knew that this person was really going to give birth inside? The policeman stood there, dazed, unsure of what he should do. Gu Jingming's eyes became cold. He pulled the policeman over and placed a gun to his head. Open the door, do you hear me? Ah, the policeman screamed. Inside, the chaotic mess of people looked at this crazy man helplessly. The policeman opened the door while trembling. Gu Jingming pushed the policeman away and lifted Yu Minmin up. He tugged her cold body close to her. Gu Jingming gritted his teeth. The nerve next to her ears throbbed and became more obvious, making him look even more shrewd. I am here, Minmin, don't be scared. I'll bring you and our child out of here immediately. Yu Minmin trembled and felt pain in her body once more. Ah, so painful, she screamed once again. Gu Jingming carried her and immediately walked outside. Iya, he was holding a gun just now. Was he trying to jailbreak? What are these people, such daringness? The people inside all started screaming. The policeman almost peed his pants. He just remembered and quickly crawled up to press the bell. Someone attacked the police, and broke into the jail. But Gu Jingming had already run out with Yu Minmin in his arms. Chapter 1074. This is my wife and not a murderer. At the hospital. Gu Jingming carried a bleeding woman, which made everyone scream and run away. Doctor, my wife is in trouble. Please save her. Gu Jingming yelled, running towards the A&E department. Upon seeing the state of things, the doctor immediately put down everything and rushed over. As the doctor was experienced in A&E, they did not care who it was and quickly executed emergency care on the bed. What's going on? It looks like she is pregnant and about to give birth. She is bleeding a lot. Go and take a blood test and see what's her blood type. Do an ultrasound to check on the child and check if she has any other physical injuries. Goodness, the position of the fetus is abnormal. Arrange for a cesarean. She is losing too much blood. Quickly give her blood transfusion. The A&E room was in chaos. Gu Jingming just stood there and held Yu Minmin's hand tightly. It's all right, Minmin, I am here. Gu Jingming blamed himself. He was very afraid and upset. However, he only had one thought in his mind now. Minmin must live, he would do anything as long as she was fine. But looking at Minmin now, one could only think of death. He was in a bad mood. He looked down at Yu Minmin and had no care about anything else. The doctor pushed her inside. He looked at Gu Jingming and said, Sir, your wife needs surgery now. Please wait outside. No, I must follow her. Gu Jingming stubbornly held on to her hands. No, sir, please go to the side. This will be beneficial to your wife's delivery. It is a crucial moment now. However, Gu Jingming immediately looked up. No, I must stay next to her. The nurses and doctors were all shocked. There were still benefits to looking handsome. Upon seeing how this handsome, gentlemanly man with well-defined features, although madly stubborn, looked at his wife with deep love, many of them were suddenly very envious of the woman lying there. He must be almost mad with sadness because he loved her a lot. Usually, when a man saw so much blood, his wife in that state, and his child's life at stake, he would be so frightened that he would not know what to do. Some jerks would directly ask if the child could be saved many times until it was very annoying, or bring their family here to cause a scene and make them unable to work. However, he just stubbornly held his wife's hand, unwilling to let go. He grabbed her hands tightly and just kept repeating, "I am here. I am here." They could all sympathize with a man like that. The medical staff looked at each other and asked, "Why not we just let him in? This woman might not be able to live, so if he followed them in, he could still see her for the last time." They quickly got the man to change into medical scrubs and followed them into the A&E operation room. After less than 10 minutes, with a loud cry, the baby left her mother's body. Because the baby was born premature, she was small, yet she was still slightly bigger than other premature babies. She was a little more than 2 kilograms. A 7-month-old fetus was usually around 1.5 kilograms, so it was good that she was more than 2 kilograms. The medical staff placed the baby into the incubator while checking the baby's body. Others were still there, saving the mother. Many bags of blood were used for blood transfusion. It was not easy, but the heartbeat and blood pressure finally stabilized. After suturing, the couple of doctors were also exhausted. They looked at the man again and saw him sprawled across the operation table, looking at his wife's face and adoringly caressing her cheeks. Although he must have been exhausted from standing there for 2 hours, he still looked at his wife with such gentleness. The people at the scene were all very touched. They looked at him and could not bear to disturb him. Only the attending doctor went over and patted him gently. "Sir, your wife's life has been saved. She is still unconscious because she lost too much blood. After recuperation, she will recover." Gu Jingze looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "Thank you." "You are welcome. We are still checking the baby there. She is a girl. You may take a look." "Yes, I will take a look later." Just then, there were policemen's voices from outside. A few nurses ran in and yelled, "What should we do?" They said that the pregnant woman we rescued just now is a murderer. Everyone was in shock. "No way, really?" Meanwhile, at the back, Gu Jingze stood up and firmly said, "She is my wife. She is not a murderer." His firm voice made them freeze. They looked back at Gu Jingze's silent yet undeniable dominating aura. They suddenly felt like the lights in the room were not as illuminating as his glowing aura. They uncontrollably believed in his words, as if it was the emperor's orders or the law. The policeman also walked in. Upon seeing Gu Jingze, he immediately said, "Ah, aren't you the one who broke into the jail?" Gu Jingze patted himself. "I will go back with you. My wife just finished the operation and is unable to move now. You can get people to supervise her here." They took a look. There was blood everywhere, and the woman was still lying there with tubes attached to her. They did not dare to move her, so they could only nod and ask more people to supervise her. After all, this was a murderer. Then, they brought Gu Jingze back. At the police station, everyone looked at how Gu Jingze walked into the station in a calm manner without any arrogance, as if he was not being arrested and just here to survey the station. Although the policeman behind him was very angry, he could not block his aura and walked next to him like a follower. They could only lock him in the interrogation room and used words to pressure him. "Humph, you'll suffer later. How dare you act wildly here in jailbreak? Are you tired of living? You still dare to bring guns without a permit? Are you trying to die?" Gu Jingze ignored him and pulled a chair to sit. When the interrogator walked in and saw him sitting there with his back straight, he walked over and pulled a chair confusedly, feeling as if he was the one being interrogated. "What's your name? Why didn't you bring your identity card?" he asked. Gu Jingze, "I don't have an identity card. I am from C Nation," he replied. "Ha, you are a C Nation citizen just because you say so. I suspect that you are an illegal resident." He did not link Gu Jingze with the president of C Nation, and just sat there and jotted down notes. After writing down the words, Gu Jingze, he paused and thought that it looked kind of familiar. Chapter 1075, The President Arrives Personally. Before he could think of anything else, Gu Jingze already asked, "Why don't you contact the C Nation's embassy to confirm my identity?" "Humph, who are you? I can confirm your identity just with your name. You don't even have an identification card. Don't waste my time anymore." Unfazed, Gu Jingze said, Give them my name. I guarantee that they will know. Humph, who do you think you are? You even want me to make a trip to the embassy? Just answer my question and don't talk about anything I did not ask you about. This is the police station. Don't treat this like your home. I see, this is how the police in M Nation works, he remarked. Ha, what's it about the M Nation's police? What does that have to do with you? This is how we do our things. A public matter like this is too complicated for you common folks to understand. The police officer looked at him. His name was familiar and he looked familiar. He was even armed. Was he a wanted man? Was he a highly wanted criminal? The police officer quickly gathered the things as he found this man more and more familiar. Was he really a wanted criminal? He quickly went out and ordered, contact C Nation's embassy and ask about this name. He did not dare to stay in the same room as this man after that. He was afraid that if Gu Jingze were really a murderous wanted criminal, his life would be at risk. He called out to Gu Jingze, I'll deal with you later. Humph. Gu Jingze said, you can stay happy for a little longer. The police officer did not understand what he meant. He turned around and scolded him, you just look like a bad person. Humph, I'm going to deal with him properly later. Meanwhile, once the embassy knew of this, there was a huge commotion. 15 minutes later, the police station suddenly received a call. The man you arrested just now is called Gu Jingze. Ah, that's right. Which branch office are you from? How did the news get to you so fast? Is he very famous? The police officer thought that it was a call from a branch office. This is the General Bureau. Huh. Take good care of him. Yes, yes, yes. We'll definitely keep him under watch. He really thought that he landed a big case. He anxiously moved Gu Jingze to a high-security cell. Unexpectedly, cars pulled in and could be heard from the inside. Within minutes, the police station was surrounded by cars. Whoa, who are they here for? Such a huge commotion. Are they here for that wanted criminal from just now? It doesn't look like it. The cars look very expensive. At this moment, the people who stepped out of the cars shocked everyone. A group of presidential members came down, opened the door, and welcomed the president. While everyone was still in shock, they discovered that the M Nation's president personally came to this little police station. Everyone quickly stood still and bowed. After the M Nation president stepped out of the car, he headed straight inside without saying a word. It was not long before they were inside. Where is he? The Secretary General asked the police officer. The police officer asked, are you talking about that wanted criminal? The Secretary General looked at him sternly. What wanted criminal? Are you out of your mind? He grabbed the officer's collar and pushed him aside. Then, he continued walking until he found the interrogation room. When nobody was in there, he blew up and yelled, where is he? Where have you taken him? Here, please follow me. Someone led him inside. It was then when he saw Gu Jingze sitting there, covered in blood. President Gu, the Secretary General said hastily, we've heard about it. Our president rushed here. Turning around, the president also entered the cell. President Gu, you came to M Nation unannounced. Your brother, Mr. Gu, already told us. Please, come this way. After settling everything, the two presidents sat down to talk at the small police station. I'm deeply sorry that your wife suffered and almost lost her life here. It's also our negligence that our people still don't know who you are and you had to suffer here. Gu Jingze replied, all these are nothing, but my wife is still in the hospital. I hope to take her with me to recuperate. That goes without saying. We'll immediately make the arrangements for you. M Nation's president went to the presidential palace with him. When they stepped out, the police officers were still outside waiting on them. Gu Jingze was ready to head out. The president led the way at the front while the Secretary General followed behind. So many pairs of eyes stared at them. It was simply amazing that the president was here. And at that moment, Gu Jingze suddenly thought of something and he said to M Nation's president, please give me a moment. Then, Gu Jingze turned around and looked at the man hiding behind. The one who interrogated him just now. He walked over. That man seemed to have already lost his soul. Gu Jingming's expression was the same, but it was shocking. Gu Jingming grabbed his collar and made him shiver some more. He said carefully, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really didn't know that you're C Nation's president. Really, if I had known, I'd have informed my superiors. I would have welcomed you properly. I wouldn't have done anything to you." Never did he imagine himself to be in such a situation. Otherwise, given his guts, he absolutely would never have dared to treat Mr. President this way. And he was the president of the huge C Nation. Gu Jingming said, "I don't need an apology, but regarding my wife." Thinking about that heavily pregnant woman sent chills down their spines. Nobody thought that a pregnant woman coming here would be Madam President, and the child she was carrying belonged to the president. However, they simply ignored her and even almost let her die here. "We didn't know. We really didn't know." Gu Jingming narrowed his eyes. "She needs an official apology. Furthermore, you'll also have to prepare to pay the price for the deeds of your families. Even if they were really murderers, they deserved the most basic rights. That was the right to live. They disregarded life and almost let someone die in their station. How could they?" Everyone was shaken. In that instant, they thought that they were really done for. Gu Jingming only glanced at them indifferently. However, that one look already made them feel his murderous intent. Gu Jingming did not say much else. He turned around and said to them, "Some people here have violated laws and regulations. I'll have to ask you to deal with them under your country's law." He naturally would not handle these people in front of their own president. Thus, just this little warning was already enough. M Nation's president was also firm. "Don't worry, we'll definitely account for this." Gu Jingze helped him stabilize his position as M Nation's president and chased out the Yun family. Thus, he always maintained a relationship with Gu Jingze. On Gu Jingze's account this time, he would definitely help Gu Jingming too. He would not leave the matter as it is for the benefit of M Nation. Otherwise, given the value of Gu Jingming's status, the situation could get more complicated. Chapter 1076. You're fine, the baby is fine, we are all fine. M Nation's president knew that Gu Jingze was still there. If he dared to touch Gu Jingze, the Gu family would never let M Nation off. Thus, he naturally wanted to treat Gu Jingming well. At the hospital, Yu Minmin gradually woke up. She saw that she had been relocated to a good hospital. She was surrounded by nurses scurrying around and she seemed to be in a single ward. It was well equipped and neat. It did not look like an ordinary hospital. Yu Minmin's throat was dry. When she tried to lift her head to look for water, a nurse saw her. "Ah, madam, you're awake." Everyone quickly surrounded her, each one of them inspecting Yu Minmin. "Does your belly hurt? Does your throat hurt? Can you read these words?" Yu Minmin answered every question and then asked quizzically, "Where is this place?" "Madam, this is the National Security Hospital. Mr. President instructed us to relocate you here. Your husband, M Nation's Mr. President Gu, is outside. We've already informed him. Also, your baby is in pediatrics. Because of the premature birth, we have to conduct other tests and observations now. Once you are feeling better, you'll be able to see her." The child. "Ah, yes. The child." Yu Minmin's eyes lit up. Just then, she saw Gu Jingming enter the room. There was a strange light in his eyes. He walked towards her and grabbed her hands. "Minmin, it's okay. You're fine now." Yu Minmin was really in his arms. She felt like she was home. As long as he was around, any place felt like home. She hugged him as she cried in his arms and almost choked. "The baby. Our baby, I'm sorry I couldn't protect our baby," Yu Minmin said. "Silly, what are you apologizing for? You did well. The baby is fine." He looked at Yu Minmin and his heart ached so badly. "It was I who could not protect both of you." Yu Minmin bit her lower lip and looked at him. "Is the baby really okay? Can I see her?" "Of course you can." Gu Jingming ordered, "Bring the baby in." "Yes, sir." A while later, the incubator was pushed into the room. The tiny baby was lying inside. He looked so much smaller than a normal baby. Yu Minmin had never seen a premature baby, so he looked especially tiny to her. It made her heart ache. Yu Minmin cried out, baby, baby, it's all mommy's fault. You're so small and you had to come out prematurely. Gu Jingming said, it's okay. She just wanted to see her mother earlier. Furthermore, with medical technology now, a 6-month premature baby can survive well. It is possible now. The doctor checked and she is in good health. She will grow up well. Yu Minmin looked up at him with tears hanging off her lashes. He lowered his head empathetically and kissed her tears away. Don't cry. My heart aches as soon as you cry. Yu Minmin laughed through her tears and looked at him. So I wasn't dreaming then. You're really here. Yes, this isn't a dream, Gu Jingming replied. Yu Minmin was just puzzled. The clothes he was wearing now was not his usual style. Furthermore, Linda was not by his side. Nobody was. Yu Minmin asked, how come you're here by yourself? Where's Linda? Gu Jingming said, alright, let's talk about these later. I've already informed Jingze and he'll send someone to get us. Don't worry. He even informed Gu Jingze. What exactly happened? However, Gu Jingming did not say a word more and let the medical team do a complete checkup on Yu Minmin. Behind, the doctors and nurses all thought that this presidential couple was really too sweet. C Nation's president was so nice to his wife. He came here so anxiously and even tenderly comforted his wife. They heard that he came alone to rescue his wife. Such a good man was really rare to come across. Everyone looked at Gu Jingming and could not help being smitten. However, Gu Jingming did not look at anyone else. After recovering, his eyes only stared at Yu Minmin. It was as if he was afraid that she would disappear from his sight again. Yu Minmin told Gu Jingming about what happened in the past few days. Gu Jingming listened and his heart ached. Yu Minmin suffered so much. Yu Minmin said, I actually killed him. Gu Jingming, is this a sin? Gu Jingming shook his head. They deserved it. They were already the worst of humankind. They didn't even let an innocent child off and wanted to sell it away. They didn't let a pregnant lady off. They were doomed to hell. Having you dirty your hands and kill them was already the lightest punishment they received. Yu Minmin leaned against him and rested. Gu Jingming instructed his subordinates to handle this matter. Not long after, people were already searching in M Nation for the regular hangout of beggars outside. M Nation's president also ordered the search and rescue of M Nation beggars and to help these homeless people find a home. At the same time, he also wanted to remediate the evil forces which used beggars to make money. In an instant, the entire capital of M Nation began to search for beggars. Meanwhile, in the sewer, the family of 3 was sitting there when they saw someone barge in. They huddled together in fear and exclaimed, don't take my daughter away. Don't take her away, take me instead, I'll do whatever you want. Don't cry, what are you yelling for? We're not here to catch you. We're from ZF Party and we're going to help beggars. Help the beggars? Since when did M Nation have a change of heart? The family stared blankly and could not believe it. However, they watched these uniformed people pack their things and escort them out with kind words. They then believed it. They were indeed being rescued. The woman took her 2 children out. She was happy and relieved at the same time. She never thought that she would see this day. Before that pregnant woman killed people that day, she talked about C Nation's president when she talked to them. She said that it was C Nation's policy to never treat beggars this way. She said that they had a rescue agency. She said that the C Nation's president was a very good person. Was this because of her? However, how could they ever be so lucky to meet someone who had the ability to change things? But if this was not because of her, then it would be too coincidental. There was no reason that they would suddenly help beggars. Yu Minmin and Gu Jingming rested together in the hospital. She was prepared to return to C Nation earlier. She was really going home with her child and this would finally let her have peace of mind. Gu Jingming was also urgently making plans. However, the situation in C Nation was actually not so good right now either. Gu Jingming even thought that it would be better if they stayed there a little longer. Otherwise they would be going back to another wave of problems. Previously, he did not think of all these because of Yu Minmin. But now that Minmin was going home, he had to prepare to face this situation. Chapter 1077, Lin Che's life was much more comfortable. At the same time in M Nation, Lin Che's life was much more comfortable. Li Mingyu looked at Lin Che and asked her, "What's the meaning in life where you just sit around watching TV and eating every day?" Lin Che turned back to look at Li Mingyu. "You think it's not good? Send me back to C Nation then." This Li Mingyu was really a strange man. He refused to let her contact Gu Jingze nor explain anything to the Gu family. He clearly wanted to make things difficult for Gu Jingze. However, she could not do anything about it either. She could only stay here and relax. Li Mingyu asked, "What's the hurry? Gu Jingze doesn't seem to care about you. It's been a few days and he's not even here." Lin Che shot him a look and could not be bothered with him. Li Mingyu asked, "Do you want to take a walk outside? I'll keep you company." "What's the point in that? I don't want to," Lin Che replied proudly. Tisk. Li Mingyu really had to hand it to her. She was acting like a big shot. The attendants at home were all puzzled. Why was their boss so nice to this pregnant lady? She scolded and chided him daily, but he still faced her with a smile. Just then, Lin Che suddenly remembered one thing that she didn't manage to do. Fine, we can go take a walk outside." Li Mingyu was very surprised by her sudden change in mind. "Take a walk? Where?" "Just go where I tell you to. Go go go, we're going right now." Lin Che got up and went to change her outfit. Li Mingyu looked helpless. Fine, we'll go wherever you want." He must have really owed her in his past life to have to humble himself for her now. But there was still some unwillingness in him. Lin Che got ready and went out with him. When they got to the car, Li Mingyu asked, "Shouldn't you tell me where we're headed now?" Lin Che said, "Young Luo took me to that club previously. You know where that is, right? Let's go there." "Hey, why do you want to go all the way there?" "I want to find someone." "Who?" Li Mingyu thought for a while and then his eyes jumped. "Hey, don't tell me you're going to look for a man." "Hey, you're right, I am looking for a man." Li Mingyu nearly wanted to explode with anger. "Hey, here I am, waiting on you like a servant, and you actually want to go out to find a man. Aren't you a little too heartless?" Lin Che grunted. She smiled at him and said, "That's because other men are more handsome than you." Li Mingyu was really defeated by her. Only she could attack him so directly. Lin Che said, "Ha ha ha. Just look at yourself." Li Mingyu looked at her as she burst into laughter. "What, you're actually just trying to provoke me, aren't you?" Lin Che thought and said, "I'm really not this time." Li Mingyu's heart was really torn into pieces. Even the chauffeur in front was trying to stifle his laughter. It was really their first time seeing their high and mighty boss being dissed so nonchalantly. As the saying goes, everything has a weakness. Lin Che asked, "Why would I look for a man? Which man could be as handsome as Gu Jingze? After meeting Gu Jingze, I think every other man is trash, especially in terms of looks. Nobody can compare to Gu Jingze. I am indeed looking for a man this time, but he is my life savior. It's not what you think." Li Mingyu's expression darkened. "Why doesn't your explanation sound right to me?" Her entire explanation was all praise for Gu Jingze. Who explained things to him that way? This was supposed to be an explanation, not a second-degree burn. However, since she was looking for someone, Li Mingyu did not pursue the matter. The chauffeur drove them to the club and they very quickly got out of the car. They entered and the boss personally welcomed them upon seeing that Li Mingyu was here. Li Mingyu said to Lin Che, "Go find whoever you're looking for." Lin Che said, "Boss, I'm looking for a Shaozi. He works here." "Huh, Shaozi," the boss said hesitantly, "he couldn't come to work today." "Huh, why?" "People kept coming for him in the past few days. The boss didn't have a choice, either. This Shaozi was too incompetent. He made great efforts to make him successful. Now that he was successful, he actually became a disgrace." He chuckled and said, "He's not feeling well, so he's resting at home. Just look at our other young lads here. We have plenty. Take a look, they're not any worse than Shaozi." Behind them, many people saw Li Mingyu and already rushed to the front to greet him. This was M Nation's biggest club. The ladies and lads here were also greater in numbers than anywhere else. Lin Che only glanced at all these people, then said to the boss, I'm looking for Xiaozi. What kind of illness does he have? Where is he? Please tell me. Just as Lin Che finished speaking, Li Mingyu chimed in impatiently, just answer the question. Don't beat around the bush. Scared by Li Mingyu, the boss quickly gave her Xiaozi's location. Xiaozi was staying in the dormitory behind the club. This was the boys' dorm, and it was not in good condition either. Thus, many young lads made money from the club and went to stay outside on their own. However, some people also felt that there was no meaning in living outside. It was lonely and boring. Thus, they remained here. Inside, Xiaozi laid on the bed. He looked like he could die at any time. But his roommates seemed to ignore him. One was applying a face mask on himself and said, Humph, the room smells like death recently. Another one was playing on his mobile phone as he said, there is a dead person lying there. How can it not stink? It stinks so bad, shouldn't boss toss him out already? He is the top favorite. Many old women like him. Oh my, why would the number one be dying here? He's lost his face, so nobody wants him. What a tragedy, he was barely number one for a few days and he came crashing down. Nobody cares for him and nobody wants him. Sigh. He was destined to crash and fall like a meteor. He's a jinx, whoever gets involved with him will die too. Let's ask boss to switch our room and not delve in bad luck. I heard that he jinxed his whole family to death. The person on the bed suddenly moved. The two guys were not afraid. Xiaozi was beaten to a pulp that day. How could they be afraid of a handicapped person? You guys say that again. Xiaozi stood up with great difficulty. Ha, what, hasn't that story been passed around for ages? Weren't your family members jinxed to death by you? What do you want? What is it? Did you think you're still boss's number one? You are nothing now, you're not even an animal. Nobody can help you. Xiaozi did not care about the pain. He started fighting them. With 2 against 1, he naturally sustained more injuries. The security outside heard the scuffle and hurried inside to stop them. Chapter 1078. How did this kid get in here? With young boys living together, problems often arose. It was common for fights to break out for no reason. Thus, these security guards were also used to it. They swiftly broke up the fight. Seeing that Xiaozi was once again beaten up, they shook their heads and carried him to the bed. They left him like that. Humph, that's it, you still dare to fight us? The two guys scolded him when a group of people suddenly entered the room. Li Mingyu led the way while Lin Che followed behind. Li Mingyu frowned. What kind of broken place is this? Seeing that they had visitors, the two guys quickly stood straight. Lin Che walked in and scanned the area. The two guys blocked Xiaozi behind them and asked, who are you looking for? Lin Che asked, where is Xiaozi? The two guys' eyes shifted. They were puzzled. Why were people still looking for him when he was already in this state? Furthermore, they looked noble, as if they had authority and power. And this lady was so pretty. Just then, Lin Che heard a low wheeze come from the bed. She quickly pried the two guys apart. Get lost. Let me see what's going on. She pushed them away and saw Xiaozi on the bed. She froze. Xiaozi's clothes had blood stains and he looked half dead as if all energy had been drained from him. Lin Che quickly grabbed his shoulders and said, Xiaozi, Xiaozi. He slowly looked up. When he saw Lin Che in front of him, he halted. Lin Che's eyes met his and she smiled. I told you that I would come back to thank you. As long as I'm alive, I'll definitely help you. Xiaozi, don't worry, I'll get someone to check on you. In an instant, Xiaozi was truly moved. He never thought that he would still be able to see such a pretty face in his most difficult time. This beautiful, gentle face was rescuing him. On that day, Li Mingyu had Xiaozi carried out on a stretcher. They informed the hospital and took him there. The boss was also confused. He did not know what kind of luck Xiaozi had that Li Mingyu noticed him. Now that Xiaozi was sick, he initially thought of just letting Xiaozi be since he was so disobedient. He was handsome, but they had too many young lads. Those who could not stand out weren't worth the effort to care for. Who would have thought that Xiaozi would be so fortunate? He didn't need their concern. He already hit the jackpot by meeting a nobleman. The boss naturally did not dare to question Li Mingyu if he wanted to take whoever away. He could only watch as they took Xiaozi away, leaving the bystanders in amazement and jealousy as they watched the entourage in the distance. The hospital prepared a single ward for Xiaozi. He had some wounds on his face and the wounds on his body were more serious. He suffered internal bleeding in his stomach. Although it was minor, it definitely could have been serious if they came later. Luckily, they discovered it in time. If he continued bleeding for a few more days, he might have died. When Lin Che came to visit Xiaozi, he looked at her and smiled. Lin Che said, "I'm also recuperating in M Nation now, so I can't be of much help. Wait until I'm back in C Nation. I'll definitely find a way to help you." Xiaozi said gratefully, "You've already helped enough. For many, many years, nobody has ever treated me this nicely. Meeting Miss Lin is already the best thing that has ever happened to me." "It's okay, Xiaozi, you don't have to say that." Lin Che did not think she was that great. He saved her and she was just helping him in return. Xiaozi said, "My name is not Xiaozi. That is just the name I go by in the club." "Oh, what's your name?" Lin Che asked. He said, "I'm Cheng Yuantu." "Ah, that's a very nice name." Lin Che smiled. After he settled down, Lin Che and Li Mingyu went home. Li Mingyu said, "Sigh, I'm really becoming kinder. I even helped send a call boy to a hospital." "Hey, call boys are humans too." Li Mingyu looked at Lin Che. "But you are really something too. He only helped you that one time and you rescued him like this." Lin Che said, "A small favor should be repaid with greater ones in gratitude." "Got it. How come you never repaid me? I was kind enough to save you too." Lin Che turned to look at him. "Weird." "What's weird?" "It's weird that I just don't feel the need to be grateful to you." Li Mingyu was once again certain that he owed her in his past life. Just then, Li Mingyu's phone rang. He answered the phone. The person on the other end said, "Sir, there is some movement from the Yun family's side." "What movement?" "They were hacked this morning and are still undergoing maintenance now. Apparently, the entire Yun family's powers are invested in finding the source now." "Really?" Li Mingyu's eyes moved and he thought to himself, had Gu Jingze started taking action? However, if Gu Jingze knew that the Yun family was behind this, he wouldn't just be simply hacking their internet. But this matter was definitely no ordinary matter too. Otherwise, the Yun family wouldn't be so anxious that they would involve all their members. Meanwhile, the place where M Nation just entered. Several Secret Service guards walked beside a boy. "Young master, the Yun family's internet has already been hacked, but we found nothing." Gu Xinian nodded plainly. "But I can be certain that my mother is definitely in M Nation. Continue searching for her there." "Yes, young master, we recently discovered one thing. Please take a look." "What is it?" "Young Luo took some people with her and caused a scene at a club. It is said that they even assaulted people." "Young Luo? Why would she go to a club?" Gu Xinian said, "Go find her first." "Understood." Young Luo was having a drink in a shopping mall. She was waiting for the mall staff to bring pieces of clothes for her to see. At this moment, someone suddenly told her, "Miss, someone wants to meet you." Young Luo thought it was some lad from a wealthy family. She scoffed and said, "I don't care who it is. Send them away. I'm not in the mood to entertain anyone." "Miss Yun, why are you not in the mood? Does it have to do with my mother?" A voice that sounded young but also dark and sly traveled slowly into her ears. Young Luo froze. When she turned around, she saw that it was actually a child. Gu Xinian. Young Luo had seen him a few times before and naturally knew that this was Gu Jingze and Lin Che's son. She immediately stood up in shock. "You, why are you here?" "You," she looked all around them and found that he was here by himself. No other person was in sight. He actually came on his own. Such a small child came all the way here to question her. Furthermore, how did he come in? Not just anybody could enter this place. One had to be a gold card member to enter here. As if knowing what was on her mind, Gu Xinian placed a card on the table. "I just got it done. It took quite a bit of my pocket money, but it's all right. I only came to ask Miss Yun one thing. My mother. Where is she? Chapter 1079. Whose little devil is this? The staff at the sides all looked at this child in shock. He was at the entrance just now. He took out a card and said he wanted to get a gold card. To get a gold card here, one needed at least 1,000,000 yuan in savings to enter. And this kid actually got it done without batting an eyelid. Other children who were his age would probably still be clinging onto their mother's clothes. They'd either be too shy to speak or too brazen, causing trouble everywhere they went. But this kid was simply like a little adult with the way he sat and talked. Without his parents by his side, he looked fearless. Young Luo was filled with surprise as she looked at this child. She was dumbfounded. This child right in front of her belonged to Gu Jingze and Lin Che. Lin Che was a little slut, but even her child was so special. She gritted her teeth as she looked at the child who resembled both Gu Jingze and Lin Che. She scoffed, "You still dare to come here? Humph, kid, this is not your playground." As she spoke, she shot a look at her bodyguards. The bodyguards received her signal and slowly crept up to them. Gu Xinian replied, "I naturally have my reasons for daring to come here." He had already done his research at home and felt that the Yun family was a prime suspect. That was why he came straight to here. Yun Luo grunted, "Suit yourself. Although it's a pity, I wonder if Lin Che would do anything if she knew I got her kid." As Yun Luo spoke, her eyes shifted. The bodyguards pounced. However, Gu Xinian's lips curved into a wry smirk. He asked, "Did you think that I would come here unprepared?" Just as he said that, his Secret Service guards immediately jumped out and swiftly pinned those bodyguards down. Yun Luo saw her men fall on their knees and her arrogance vanished. She looked in front as she pointed her finger at Gu Xinian. You. The shop staff retreated fearfully as they saw the sudden turn of event. They no longer looked at the boy the same way as before. Instead, they were even more surprised. Who was this boy? He was too powerful. He came here alone and even brought so many people with him. These people were willing to listen to a boy's commands. They did not know whose child this was. They were surprised. Yun Luo looked at him. "Let go of my men." Gu Xinian said, "Okay, Miss Yun. Tell me where my mother is first." Yun Luo scoffed, "That slut mother of yours is already dead." Gu Xinian hardened his gaze. His men ruthlessly broke one of the bodyguards' arms. The man's shrill cry reflected his pain. The shop staff turned pale. They nearly wanted to leave the shop. Who could have thought that this cute and handsome child would have such a cruel heart? He didn't bat an eyelid when he broke the man's arm. He was simply a little devil. Meanwhile, Yun Luo's expression also changed. "What's the meaning of this?" she yelled. Gu Xinian said, "Answer my question and I'll release them. Otherwise, I do love hearing that sound. Don't you think the sound of bones cracking is so pleasing to the ear?" Yun Luo bit her lower lip. Hatred showed in her eyes. Even a kid was here to bully her now. Gu Xinian then said, "But you only brought a few people. That won't be enough for me. Thankfully, I still have you. When Miss Yun's small bones break, it'll probably sound greater." Now a kid was threatening to break her bones. However, Yun Luo did not feel that he was joking at all. Because fierceness was written all over his face now. This reminded her of his father, who was often described as the strict and ruthless Gu Jingze. An angelic face with a satanic heart. Yun Luo asked, "What exactly do you want to know?" "I really don't know where your mother is." Gu Xinian replied, "But from what you said just now, it didn't sound like you don't know where my mother is. Otherwise, you would have simply said you didn't know instead of lying to me by telling me she's dead." Yun Luo's expression changed slightly. It was because she thought that she could catch him easily, so she was arrogant for a second. She did not think too much into it. She did not expect this imp to be such a devil. Gu Xinian suggested, "Why don't you just tell me where my mother is? You look like you have seen her, but she got away, is that right? Where did she run off to?" This child was really intelligent. He was smarter than an average adult. Yun Luo secretly hated how this Lin Che could give birth to such a little devil. She could tell right now that if this child grew up properly, he would definitely have the ability to take over the Gu family. And he was Lin Che's son. Lin Che's son would be the successor of the Gu family. Yun Luo could not accept that. Yun Luo stood there as her eyes shifted around. Gu Xinian faked a sigh. It seems you also think the sound of broken bones is very pleasant. As he spoke, he gave another order. The man behind wailed agonizingly again. A tall bodyguard broke his arm effortlessly. Okay, I'll tell you. Young Luo could not take it anymore. Although she was now under control of someone else, and a child at that, she was very happy but at the same time afraid. She was afraid of the calf but not the tiger. This child would really break her arm if he wanted to. That would definitely hurt. She gritted her teeth and said, "Your mother is not the #1 slut in C Nation for nothing." She saw that Li Mingyu was a good way to get out and went with him. She's staying with him now. If you want to find her, you better find her quick. Otherwise, she might get in too deep with Li Mingyu and won't want to go home with you anymore. Gu Xinian's expression changed. Of course, he was angry not because he believed Yun Luo's words. He was angry because someone insulted his mother. He scoffed and said, "Very well. Deal with all these people. If my mom can't come home, none of them can." His airy words stunned everyone. Gu Xinian simply walked out. Yun Luo still wanted to chase after him but was stopped by the Secret Service. The people behind simultaneously broke the bones of all the bodyguards. Chapter 1080. Like father, like son. There was anguished wailing everywhere as they were dragged out directly. Yun Luo herself was so frightened that she dared not say another word. She could only stand there and watch stupidly as they were dragged away. She could not believe what kind of devil this little demon would turn into when he grew up. In any case, he simply looked terrifying right now. Yun Luo quickly rushed home first. When she arrived home, she said to Yun Kuoshan dispiritedly, "The Gu family is here looking for us, father." Seeing that she had rushed home alone like this, Yun Kuoshan hastily asked, "The Gu family? So quickly, who's here, Gu Jingze, or Gu Jingming?" "Neither," Yun Luo continued, "it's Lin Che's and Gu Jingze's son." What? Yun Kuoshan was literally about to faint. He looked Yun Luo up and down again as if he was looking at a fool. The daughter whom he had been proud of in the past was becoming more and more useless now. Her behavior was erratic and she only knew to cause trouble. He asked, "How old is their son?" Yun Luo said, "A little over 4 years old. But he's really terrifying." "Huh, don't you feel embarrassed saying that he's only 4 years old? If a 4-year-old child can scare you to this extent, you better go out less to avoid humiliating yourself. Stay at home more often and study." "No, father, this child is very different. He brought his men and took away all my bodyguards. For real, he even humiliated me completely. I'm really upset." Yun Kuoshan said, "Hee. He's so arrogant at such a young age." But Yun Kuoshan believed her when she said that he had brought his men to take away all her bodyguards. Although the child was young, it was fine as long as he knew how to command people. Anyway, the Gu family had plenty of men. Just then, Yun Kuoshan's eyes brightened. "Ha, he's here just in time. If we manage to capture him, we'll have another hostage." Yun Luo looked at Yun Kuoshan. "Huh, father, do you want to kidnap him?" Yun Kuoshan said, "Of course. You didn't bring that many people with you earlier, so of course, you weren't able to seize him. Let's mobilize more people now and just make sure he falls into our hands. This child is currently the most precious person in the Gu family. Humph, with him in our hands, we won't have anything to worry about." Seeing Yun Kuoshan speak so casually, Yun Luo also instinctively felt that she only found a child so terrifying because she had been frightened. Now that she had her father to back her up, she was no longer concerned as well. Gradually, the anger that she had tamped down earlier surfaced once again. Lin Che was an intolerable bully, and now, their child was also bullying people like this. Yun Luo thought, if they managed to capture him, she would definitely vent her anger on him first. It was best if she could slice off his skin and flesh and give them to Lin Che as a present. Then, she wanted to see if Lin Che could still be so arrogant when this trump card of hers was gone. Gu Xinian was in the car. The shadow guards immediately notified him that the Yun family had mobilized people. Yun Kuoshan only knew that Gu Xinian had brought his men out. He did not know that the people Gu Xinian had with him were not ordinary people but the most formidable shadow guards of the Gu family. In terms of compatibility, the shadow guards were not as impressive as the personal guards, but they were definitely the best at investigating for information. Gu Jingze scoffed. They want to capture me, fine. They caused so much trouble this time and even forced Mother and Auntie Minmin out of their homes. We weren't going to let them off easily, to begin with anyway. Since they dare to provoke me, they can't blame me for being nasty either. A streak of ferocity flashed in his eyes. He gave the shadow guards at the side his instructions. Yun Kuoshan wanted to capture him, but not directly either. He wanted first to spread the news through Li Mingyu's subordinates. At the same time, Lin Che was currently resting in her room. She was leaning back and the fruits that the maids had cut for her were right in front of her. As the maids were basically serving her as if she was their master, they definitely treated her as well as they did Li Mingyu. Because over the past few days, they had realized that Li Mingyu essentially obeyed her every word. No matter how far overboard she went, Li Mingyu would definitely not criticize her at all. So, of course, the maids themselves were not fools. They immediately treated her as their most important guest and served her with good food and drink. Lin Che was eating when she suddenly noticed a child's head pop out from the side. It was Li Mo. Lin Che looked at his little fluffy head and waved at him. Come here. What are you looking at? Come to Auntie. Let's eat fruits together. Li Mo pondered for a bit before walking out slowly and hesitatingly. Lin Che looked at this child with delight. What do you want to eat? I will peel it for you. Li Mo blinked at her. Are you going to be my mother? Lin Che froze. What are you talking about? No. Her eyes darted about. Did someone say something to you? Li Mo said, they said that my father treats you very well. Maybe you're going to become my mother. Lin Che knew that it was probably the maid's speculation. She shook her head and said, no, I'm not going to be your mother. I'm here as a guest. I'm your father's guest. You can call me Auntie Lin. Hearing this, Li Mo also paused before saying, really that's such a pity. I was even thinking that I would be quite happy if you were to become my mother. You're so beautiful compared to my. Compared to that mother of his, she was much more beautiful. Lin Che's heart sank. Silly boy. Lin Che patted his head. Although I'm not going to be your mother, I can dote on you all the same. I can even dote on you even more. Come and eat. Really? Of course I mean it. If it's possible, you can call me godmother. A godmother is also a mother. But your father and I are just friends, you understand. Lin Che knew that his birth was a tragedy, but she did not detest this child. The child was innocent. He had been brought into this world by an irresponsible mother. He was the biggest victim. When Li Mingyu returned, he saw with surprise that Li Mo was sitting beside Lin Che and chatting with her while smiling happily. He did not know what they were talking about that filled Li Mo's eyes with radiance. He stood rooted to the spot and watched. For a moment, he thought that his vision was going to blur. It turned out that his son, whom he had always thought was so quiet that he was turning into a mute, actually had such a side to him. Or was it because this Lin Che really had some kind of magical power? Why was it that any person would have a different side to them in front of her? In reality, this was also the case for him. It was because of her that he found those women boring and chased all his women away. If not for her, this place would not be the way it was right now too. But for some strange reason, he simply believed her words. However, the news he was bringing to her now was terrible. Lin Che, I just got wind of some news. Huh, what? Lin Che turned her head. Li Mingyu said, it seems that your son came to M Nation to look for you. Lin Che immediately sat up from the chair. What? Nianian came to M Nation? Although she was surprised, it was not beyond her expectations. Since Nianian could return to C Nation from America, he could naturally go to M Nation from C Nation. It was not something difficult to do either. But why was he suddenly here?